Hey guys, it's Tessa. So this video is picking up right up after the last Daft Cardigan upload post video. I'm so tired. As I mentioned at the end of that video, I'm just feeling a little bit burned out from my day job, which is making me feel a little bit burned out in my knitting. So I'm putting a pause on this cardigan for a little bit, but I still want to film the intro for you guys just so it's done, to be completely honest. But I do recommend looking at those first two parts if you have any questions, comments, or feelings on this cardigan. Regardless if you have any additional questions, comments, or feelings, let me know in the comments below. I would love your guys' feedback. I'm not well versed in knitting. I want to be more well versed in knitting, so any feedback is great. But I will check in with you guys soon. Alright, it's been a little bit since we spoke last. Work was very work last week. I haven't gotten too much knitting done. I'm still trying to get to the 8 inches. I think I'm at just over 7.5 roughly. I don't know. But I just attached a new ball of the brown. So I should have 2 more left of the brown and 3 left currently of the orange. Because I have 1 more orange as I do brown. Yeah, so I'm gonna keep going on that. This is where we're at. I also started watching Yellowstone. I'm on the first episode still. It's a show. I don't really know how I feel about it yet, but that's where we're at, and I will hopefully have the 8 inches done next time we talk. Firstly, my shirt is crazy because my husband and I went on a date yesterday and I got a psychotic shirt. Secondly, I finished the body. This is the shirt. But I finished the body of the cardigan. It's not nearly as cropped as I thought it would be. Like, it's sitting like right at my hips currently, which I don't know if that's what I intended for. But like, I think that's fine. It's a little bit on the tighter side than I thought it would be, but I think it's because it's not blocked. When I blocked the swatch, I think I was measuring it like roughly 3 inches before I blocked it, and I stretched it to 4 and it was fine. So yeah. Next goal is going to be the button band in the collar, just because I want to get that out of the way. I think I mentioned this in the last part. That's just what I want to do to make my life easier, because I don't want to deal with the sleeves as well when I'm doing the collar and button band later. But yeah, I'm also not feeling well, so I'm a little out of it. But that's the update for tonight. I'll decide tomorrow, because it's late, what I'm actually going to start on next. But see you soon. So we're at a fun angle today because I proceeded with this project without talking to you guys first. Honestly, I don't remember when I spoke last. I think I was talking about how I wasn't sure if I wanted to do the button band first or the sleeves first or what have you first. Well, I did the first half of the button band and remembered, or realized, I guess I should say, that the button band and collar are not done at the same time. So me worrying about like having to flip the whole thing with all these sleeves attached, I don't think actually means anything. Let me show you. Let me explain what I'm thinking here. Ignore that. Okay, so you still can't see. Okay, so we have cardigan, which this is definitely in like way too large of a size, but I don't care. It is what it is. Or I think it's in a large size, but whatever. So we have the first half of our button in here. Second half's gonna be done. I'm also kind of just dreading doing the second half because that means I'm gonna have to deal with the buttonholes, and that sounds like a nightmare. So I think my plan here now is to do the sleeves. I'm a little bit worried about getting stuck on Sleeve Island. Also, ignore my table, okay? I'm working on it. Anyway, I think I'm fine with being stuck on Sleeve Island. Like, I'm not too worried about it. So like, if I am, I am. If I'm not, I'm not. But if I'm gonna be stuck on Sleeve Island no matter what anyway, I might as well just get it over with. And again, we're doing the front panels separate and then the collar after I do the front pieces of the button band. So again, none of this really matters if I want to do one or the other first, because it's not like I'm doing it's not like I'm doing the button band connected to the collar at the same time and turning the entire project each time. all I have to do is flip the front and back panel, or flip, instead of flipping the whole thing. And then when it comes to the collar, it's gonna be the same thing, or just flip and flip and not like the whole thing. I don't think this makes any sense. I'm gonna cast on the sleeves. I think I'm gonna cast on with the brown just because, so I did the, as you can tell, button band in the orange. And I didn't really love my connection points. Like I can see, because the orange is slightly thinner than the brown, because the orange is slightly thinner from the brown, you can tell kind of where maybe like I messed up and I had to go back and unpick my stitch because it's a little bit looser there, right where it's been picked up. So I'm gonna start the sleeves with the brown, so hopefully that means I end the cuffs with the orange. I mean, doing the cuffs in the orange anyway. It just depends on if I want them like down to here or down to here before I start the cuff. Anyway, I'm gonna get to that. Alrighty. So, I can't remember where I actually checked in. I think I said I was gonna do the sleeves. Honestly, I can't remember if I actually filmed that part or not. Anywho, so I started the sleeves and I'm using the bag trick because I hate having to turn my entire project. But I'm only about 3.5 or so inches into the sleeve. So it's been a hot minute since we spoke. I very much was losing steam, as you could probably tell, on the Daft cardigan. I think I'm just the kind of person that doesn't like to do color work and texture work at the same time, which now I know and I will likely never do it again. But because of that, it took me a lot to even work on it. So I did not film me finishing it. I finished both sleeves, added the second part of the button band and the collar. I'm a little bit curious about this sweater, or about this cardigan, for blocking purposes. Let me try it on for you and I'll show you specifically the thing I'm interested in. So when I made my swatch for this cardigan, I was really worried about tension overall because the swatch felt really tight and I didn't feel like I had any give in it. However, you're fine. However, I have so much give in this. Like, this is supposed to be a cropped cardigan, but like there's so much extra give in it that I can fully stretch it to the length I want and it still sits pretty fine. Sleeve, same thing. I have a fair amount of give to it so I can stretch them to the length I like. Where was all of this give in the swatch? There wasn't one. There wasn't. And that annoys me a bit. I'm also a little bit worried my buttonholes aren't big enough. So in the pattern it wants you to do knit two together, yarn over, which I feel like is not a lot. I feel like that's not a lot of space for 20mm buttons. But when I shoot the buttons through the buttonholes, like they fit, I just worry once they're like stationary, I'll have to pull too much of it through essentially. But that is where we're at on the Daft cardigan. So I've basically finished it. I just need to add my buttons at this point and block it. I'm gonna block it first, obviously, but we have some friends coming over today, so I can't block it today just because if I try to do that, we won't have any space for our friends, essentially, and that will be a whole thing. So I will probably block it tonight. I'll probably block it tonight, and from there, it'll probably take like 4 days to dry. The only thing I'm not excited for blocking is we just don't own a lot of towels. Like, we only own as many as we need, really. So if I'm blocking something and I'm pressing all that water out with the towels, it means my towels are gonna be wet for like 3 days. So showering's gonna be a pain in the ass. So yeah, that's the only thing I'm not excited about. But honestly, I might just buy an extra towel or something at this point. Just because of how quickly I'm finishing some of these, whips I've had in progress for a while. But yeah, so that's the update for now. I do have some opinions on this cardigan that I would like to... I was planning to wait to talk about it until my final thoughts portion of this video, but I might as well talk about it a little bit now. The construction for this cardigan is a little funny. It's bottom up, which personally I don't love. I think this cardigan would have done better with a drop shoulder top down. That's just me though. I don't know a lot about specifically collared cardigans construction wise. I don't know what exactly is applicable or possible, I guess I should say, for these kinds of cardigans. Just because with like my brown and green one I was just wearing, that's a v-neck top down and that's just done in a raglan. I don't know enough about drop shoulders, I think, either to really know for sure kind of what would be needed for it. But based on what I've seen from other people, I think a drop shoulder would have been a better option here. Drop shoulder top down instead of bottom up shaping. This is one of her older patterns, so to be fair, it could just be, you know, at the time an experience thing where her experience is better doing top down or bottom up. I don't love the verbiage specifically with the sleeves. So the sleeves are done in the round, right? And you're doing a series of decreases throughout the entirety of the sleeve, which is fine, whatever, no biggie. However, the thing that kind of becomes a problem is in doing all of these decreases, you have to slightly switch up your stitch pattern. But because you have to drop specifically, or you only drop 2 stitches, one at the start and one at the end of the row, it slowly kind of trips up your shaping or switches it slightly at the very start and end. And because of that, it's really hard for me at least to remember if it's a switched or a normal set of rows. And then for the first sleeve, I think it's this one. For the first sleeve, when I did it, I finished my decreases essentially on a bad set of bad rows, which just means the off-centered rows. So what I did to circumvent that was just switch the first and last stitch, and it corrected the issue, but nowhere in the pattern does it note that you might need to do that or that may happen. And then for the second sleeve, I managed to do it with no problem. Also, the number of stitches or the number of decreases she noted for the size I made was like 6 or 7 decreases more than the actual pattern called for. So I don't know if that was just a typing error or I'm misunderstanding something in the pattern. I talked about it a little bit as well, I think in part 3 of this video. When it comes to the cast off stitches for the arms here, I got really annoyed at one point because it would specifically say like knit X number of stitches, then knit 1, then cast off X number of stitches, then knit 1, and then continue our pattern as normal. But really what it meant was those end and start of the knit ones, those count in your cast offs, which makes no fucking sense. It just, the phrasing of it is so strange or so odd or weird that like it was hard for me at least to like figure out what it was trying to say. Once I figured it out though, it was fine. It was just one of those things where it's like, okay, I'll have to kind of play a little bit of game of math, and I'm not very good at math. The other thing that I think is kind of interesting for this pattern is I made the largest size available. I talked about this I think in part 1, where I don't have a real concept of what size clothing I wear really. I don't buy a lot of clothes very often, and I like to wear baggy clothes. So typically I'm buying larger than I need anyway. So for some reason in my head I went, it makes most sense to make the largest size, which we learned with the halibut sweater that I don't need to make the largest size, but I did anyway for this one. I think I just forgot, and by the time I remembered I was too far into this to want to stop it. But with that being said, I do have 3 skeins of yarn left, 2 of which being our main color and 1 being our secondary color. Like 3 full skeins. Like these are untouched. So it's a little interesting to me that there is so much yarn left over. I wonder if that's a tension issue, or I did size up my needles by 1/4 millimeter, so it calls for 3.75. I believe I used 4 millimeter for the duration of the project for our larger set of needles. But even with that, in general, when you size up or size down your needles, you typically are using more yarn than if you're using the needle size that it calls for. The biggest reason I did that though as well was I wasn't meeting gauge in my swatch. So when I used my 3.75 millimeter needles, I was getting like 25 stitches or 26 stitches per row or per 4 inches. And then when I switched to my 4mm, I was getting the 21 or 23, whatever the gauge was for this. I was getting that with no problem with my 4mm. I had to do a little bit of extra stretching to like kind of get it there, but it wasn't too bad. And really the problem I had at the time was row gauge. My row gauge is almost always off. It was off in the halibut sweater, it's off in this pattern. If I made a pattern for the brown and green cardigan, my row gauge would be off. It's always off. I'm not sure if that's a tension issue as well, or if that's just a me problem, you know, get good. But usually what that would mean is I'm still using more yarn. And by my row gauge being off, I mean in order to hit 4 inches, I had to knit more rows, meaning I would have used more yarn. So I really don't understand how I have 3 full skeins of yarn left. I'm not mad about it, don't get me wrong. I just don't understand how I got here, essentially, and how I still have so much left. This is kind of becoming a stash busting video because of my first video of this year. I'm adding these 3 skeins to my total, which is a little sad, but it's fine. My birthday yarn is also coming relatively soon, so that's going to be added to my total and go up significantly. However, one of the projects I'm working on that I talk a little bit about in my new cast-ons and whips for 2026 is, it's not a Sophie scarf, but it's like inspired by. And I know I don't have a lot of that Malabrigo left, so what I'm going to do is once I run through all of the Malabrigo and the color glitter, I'm going to switch to the little ball I have left of this brown yarn and this skein here to finish off that scarf, just because I think that'll, 1, look nice and be fine, and 2, use up some yarn. I will also note again why I'm so surprised I have so much of the orange left. You can see, if I show you the brown here, you can see that it's a little bit of like a heavier DK. When I went and bought it, it said it was a DK, and it's a little bit just thicker per strand. So I'm gonna think it's a little bit of a thicker DK. And then if you look at this yarn, the orange here, let's see if it'll focus. This is way thinner, like significantly thinner than one another per strand. So even then, again, with the orange, I should have been using more of it. But I don't know. I gotta add these 3 to the total. Each of these are 100 grams, I believe. Yep, so that's 300 more grams, 6 more skeins, or 6 more 50-gram balls added to our total. Once my birthday yarn comes in, I believe that's 21 50-gram balls added to our total, which, my bad. But yeah, so those are gonna be added to the total. All that's gonna happen. I'm gonna go block this, / next time we talk, this will be blocked and you'll be seeing me wear it. And then we'll do an actual, like, final thoughts, my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on this sweater. It's really warm, honestly. It's obviously it's 100% wool, but like the green and brown cardigan I was just wearing, not super warm, but I like it because I can wear it in our apartment. My husband likes to keep the apartment cold, and I don't, so I like to wear that so I'm not complaining so much about it being cold, and it works very well. And I think this cardigan, especially once it's blocked out, will work very well for some of our colder weather we're having here in California. Side tangent. It's been like in the 30s and 40s in the middle of the day here in California. I know for some of you Midwesterners, that's not cold at all. I know for some of you Washingtonians, that's not very cold, or Oregon people, not very cold. It's cold for here, okay? Our usual average for our winter weather is between 48 and like 62 or something, okay? So mid 30s to mid 40s is crazy cold to us. All right, and my husband already complains to me about how I'm being a little baby about it since he's from Washington, but still. So it's cold as shit here. I think this cardigan will do great in this cold ass weather. But yeah, I'm gonna go, yeah. Anyway, see ya. No hair, sorry for the jump scare. But as you can see, the Daft cardigan is finally finished blocking. The collar is a little wide. I have opinions. I know I said this in the last clip as well. I have a lot of opinions on this cardigan, and it's technically not even done. Specifically, the sleeves here are a little funny. Just the way, the amount of stitches we cast it off and the way we immediately went into the decreases just makes these sleeves a little funny. And then, as you can kind of tell, I talked about this in my last knitting podcast, but like I did not need to make this size. This size is huge on me, but that's fine, whatever. So all I have left to do is add buttons, weave in my ends, and it should be done. All right, so my final opinions on the Daft Days cardigan. I weaved it on my ends, finished everything. I showed you kind of what it looked like. Here's another view. It all buttoned up. I think this button might be wrong. Like it might be too far up or too low, I mean, for the button band. I don't know. But here's what we're working with. And mostly I have positive feelings towards this. The yarn I used, I believe I mentioned it, I think at the start of this video, I don't really remember at this point, but the two yarns I used was Sea Change Fibers in the Odile for the brown, and then I used Wonderland Dye Works in the Deep Embers for the orange. Love both these yarns so far, actually. I was a little worried I wouldn't. Love them both. Very cozy, very warm, very nice. We're having a lot of high winds here in California at the moment, so this cardigan is not perfect for that, because I wore it earlier today on one of our walks for Gibby, and it was not really the most well equipped for that, but honestly, I don't expect it to be. I think the pattern itself is written well. I think I mentioned in the last clip I did make way too large of a size of this, so it's kind of like swamp, like it's huge on me, so I don't love that, but that's my fault, not Rebecca's fault. Additionally, I don't love the way these sleeves sit. Like you can see here how quickly we go into decreases, and these armholes are also pretty large. Again, this could be partially because I made a larger size than I needed to, or this could have been due to shaping for larger size grading. I'm not 100% sure. I don't really make a lot of clothing patterns, specifically knitting patterns at all, so I am not the best to kind of investigate that information. Additionally, this cardigan does not have any short rows, which a little annoying. I'm noticing for a lot of my stuff, if it doesn't have short rows, I don't like to wear it very much, because it either rides up in the back or pulls my shirt collars really hard, and I really don't like that. But overall, good pattern. I would almost recommend, if you're going to make this pattern, if you know how to, reverse the pattern itself. So start with your back panel, work your way down till a split for the sleeves, cast on the number of stitches you're supposed to cast off, and then make your two front panels, and then attach and go down. I think top down is easier than bottom up, for me at least. And it's not super hard to switch the pattern like that either, which is nice. I don't really know, though, for sure. The knit overall for this, I think I'm learning about myself that I don't like color work and texture. I think I'm a one or the other type of person, or at least with this pattern I was. I think this pattern would look really good with a variegated or like a speckle yarn maybe, and then holding like mohair with it or something, because I think that would really emphasize the way these stitches set up, or the way the stitches look. I also think, personally, I think this also could be done in broken rib, and I think I would have enjoyed my time working on it more. It would change your gauge a little bit, but I would rather do broken rib, I think, than the stitch it had you do. Or at least my brain would recognize it easier, and I think that's why I would like it more. But yeah, sleeves, I knit them about perfect. Again, if I made my right size, these would be too short, but I also feel like if I made the right size, I would have made them longer. Because I didn't need to make them very long on this guy when the front panels don't end till the middle of my bicep. So yeah, again, I like it. I think I actually like wool a lot more than I thought I did. Like I've used a lot of superwash. This is not superwash, but I've used a lot of superwash and been like, meh, I don't love it, I don't hate it. But this wool, I really like, I think. But yeah, so that will conclude this video and this series. If you have any questions, comments, feedback about the Daft Days cardigan, please let me know. I would love to have a conversation about it. If you have any question about these yarns, let me know as well, and I can add the links to the comment section. If you want to see more projects that I am working on, like my birthday sweater, subscribe and watch out for those videos. I once again hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.